Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning. Welcome to the President's Design Award 2025 Recipients Forum. I am Shandy Tan, and it's my honor to be your MC. Now, first of all, on behalf of our co-organizers, the Design Singapore Council and the Urban Redevelopment Authority, we'd like to thank each and every single one of you for taking the time to join us here today. And now, to begin our program, it gives me great pleasure to invite up for the welcome remarks, Ms. Dawn Lim, Executive Director, Design Singapore Council. Dawn, please.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Bright and early, 9 a.m. on a Thursday, so we're almost at the weekend. But also just having come off a very, what I feel, strong SG60 National Day weekend. I hope all of you got to catch the parade. I think it's really appropriate and timely that we're having the second forum for the President's Design Award this year to really talk about Singapore as a nation by design. I don't know how many of you saw the essay that was also published by Business Times and Straits Times over the last 2 days, where they gave us a very nice headline, Designing Progress the Singapore Way. So we've been quite lucky since 2 weeks ago, the President's Design Award, that actually mainstream media has given us quite a lot of spotlighting on what design means for Singapore's progress, what it means for us to design a nation. And many countries have come to actually see how we do systems design, urban design, the Singapore way. So I think today we are quite lucky. We've got 4 of the PDA recipients to come and share with us the works and the process of designing and the process of creation and the thinking behind it, right? Because the thing about Singapore and the thing about great cities is that it has to be intentional, it has to be purposeful, it has to be deliberate. It's not by chance, right? We also design things to happen by chance. So it's not totally by chance, it's designed to happen by chance, right? And architect Alan Tay, who's President's Designer of the Year, right? His work on the Al-Islam Mosque and TMW Maxwell, right? They show us how architecture can break boundaries and they meet community needs to enhance our quality of life. And similarly, NextOfKin, the Civil Pride Lion Troupe, redefining active aging through inclusive design whilst remaining deeply rooted in culture. I hope many of you had a chance to also see the seniors in action for the Lions Dance. Those of you who were able to join us at the National Gallery, one of the seniors who was participating in the Lion Dance troupe actually came and was part of the audience that night. But it's not just about our culture, it's not just about the past, it's not just about our heritage. It's also about being forward-looking, and that's a huge part of Singapore's design spirit. Delta Sports Centre reshapes our communities. Those of you who have been able to see, it's actually in one of our older districts, more mature districts. It's adapting familiar but aging infrastructure, and Red Bean Architects has actually preserved a lot of the oldness of the sports centre, but yet injecting fresh energy into the neighbourhood. And last but not least, School of Tomorrow by Kinetic, they put an unconventional twist on everyday learning to educate our audiences on what climate change might mean in our everyday lives. So we're very privileged that 4 of them are here to join us this morning, and we look forward to hearing from them and also your questions later on today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dawn. Yes, indeed, as a nation by design, Singapore is built intentionally with a future-ready spirit that shapes strong communities. And on that note, let's explore today's topic, empowering communities. Thoughtful design has the power to foster inclusion, resilience, and a strong sense of community that can last for generations. So today's panel will showcase how Singapore's designers have inspired and positively impacted lives across all ages through their innovative and compassionate work. Our first speaker is PDA 2025 Designer of the Year, Architect Alan Tay, Principal Partner of Formwerkz Architects. Alan is a founding partner of Formwerkz Architects, an award-winning firm celebrated for its innovative, biophilic, and human-centric designs. Since 2004, Formwerkz has earned local and international recognition for pushing architectural boundaries and embracing design as a transformative force. Under Alan's leadership, the firm has received accolades including the President's Design Award, Architecture Review Award, Frame Award, SIA Design Award, and the Golden Pin. Let's welcome architect Alan. Alan, please.
Hello, morning. Hi, everyone. Okay, let's figure this out. I'm Alan Tay. Nice to be here. Very honored to win the award and to be sharing in this morning my body of work. And specifically, I'm supposed to talk about community, empowering them. But it's so tough, right? 20 minutes to sum it up. And it's almost impossible. As a designer of year, I guess I am the project, right? So I have to start with my birth, 1973, year that I was born. Many things happened significantly architecturally. The Sydney Opera House was completed, one of my favorite. In Singapore itself, the National Stadium, the Golden Mile Center was built. Golden Mile Center now is very fortunately being conserved and to have a second life. It is a significant time, a time of growth. I grew up and I define myself as Gen X, Generation X, and this is where I think most of us grew up, a familiar scene. If anyone you have just stay in a HDB flat and you go transit to a 3-room flat, right? This is exact layout that I remember. Exactly. A fireplace here would be the TV. And then the same kind of furniture, the terrazzo flooring, the mosaic floor. We shared so much commonality. It's amazing in that period of time. And that, fast forward, 1998, fresh face, me and my other partners. We are still finishing up our MArch, but we started our office in a very interesting place, the Best Way, which is incidentally the School of Architecture when it was a polytechnic then. We started pretty early because it was really a kind of collision of faith, of fortune. I don't know what you call it, but in 98, we were faced with the pessimistic financial outlook. It was a kind of, my internship was cut short because of that financial crisis in Asia. But at the same time, the spirit of entrepreneurship was on the rise. You have your colleagues and friends from the comm science going into the web design. This is the bubble, the internet bubble starting. The spirit of entrepreneurship was something that drives us. We wanted to start something as well at that point in time, since we have that spare time from the early release from our internship. So it was a journey from then on. And it was not easy because it was a journey like no other. I mean, it's an architectural training which should, by right, be going through several years under the tutorship or mentorship of a more established firm. You learn the ropes, learn how the business is run, but we learn almost everything on our own. And importantly, as a designer, while the need to keep a business alive and viable, we shouldn't lose sight as well. Since you started this on your own, we developed from very early that certain things are important to the practice. So the sense of critical inquiry is important when it comes to projecting, in being analytical and then to see what to arrive from that. And the method, of course, become important, the methodology. So we derived from that this idea of hybridization, something that was important. And of course, the best kind of example to demonstrate that, what do you mean by hybridization in terms of method, would be this ice stupa by Sorum. Amazing. It is like a symbol in the Everest, but it is functionally a reservoir. And it takes completely the advantage of the geometry of how ice form and melt, and preserve and deliver this essential need to the community, during the heat of the summer. So the importance in design, right, to have this idea of both and to be oxymoron, to be a plus. And I demonstrated this image, which I it was fresh in my head because I was going through the chemistry papers with my son, and something familiar came out. It is like the alloy, right? The steel, stainless steel in the trade. It's stronger because it disturbed the pure structure of iron. The carbon messed things up a bit. To make it less uniform, so that it becomes harder, less easy to slide. If anyone still remember chemistry in O levels, right? So again, we look at image of our office in the again very fortunately announced conserve turf city. We were on the 7th floor, which is the VIP lounge I used to brag. That look at the spectator stand. Down here is adaptively we use as a kind of nursery, a terrace, outdoor living room. So this kind of messiness, this kind of like disruption, sometimes create opportunity for new use and new perception and experiences. So my body of work, of course, will have to talk about this, although I'm supposed to specifically talk about the two projects, but it's impossible not to neglect the 22 decades of houses that we were into. And of course, home, right, is really the foundation of community, isn't it? When we were designing houses, we were looking already that shouldn't be just lifestyle, it shouldn't be just what is fashionable, what is the latest material, what is, but really the family dynamics about creating confrontation, discourse, about creating a sense of privacy while yet common spaces. I used to joke, in a sense, that the most exciting part of designing a house is really designing the corridors, the common spaces, the living rooms. These are and in that sense, if you enlarge the scale, right, in a larger context of a public building or public space, right, it's always this kind of circulatory space that's important, where opportunity or where you have the chance to encounter nature or encounter the community comes about. So that has always kind of shaped my thinking, whether it's a courtyard house, whether the various typology that I'm exploring, is always going back to that of curating the connection between the people, the family in this case, and nature. So a particular house, for example, was Chrysler House, completed in 2019, which won the PDA Award 2020 COVID time, was really about seeing it as a kind of a single-story house, right? That is punctuated with several courtyards. And because of that punctuation, they bring lights and nature and ventilation in, right? But it created many cloisters. Cloisters are corridors. So in that sense, we are pushing ideas. Corridors are no longer circulatory space that we try to eliminate because of efficiency. They are waste of space. No, in this case, the cloister become the living space. Was something that was very important. And it created a chance to begin to see living spaces shouldn't be static. Like, oh, that's the formal living, there's the dining, there's the entertainment room where you entertain. But as long as it becomes something more indeterminate, more fluid, that perhaps the furniture arrangement, like open plan office, you could change, because maybe that space are more conducive. Because that space you can see the birds come into the courtyard. Maybe that space attract less sun. In that sense that then you begin to have agency for the family to adjust, rather than to be dictated that, oh, the designer think that that's better. In the sense that the growth, the chance of evolution and revolution is possible. So very quickly, Elisha Mosque. It was interesting because we were so fortunate to win this competition and to build and complete in 2015. The thing we look at was really the question, what is the next mosque in 2012, right? It goes through several periods. From the colonial period, the grand mosque, which is pushed up by HDB, and then there was the critical regionalism, which created this whole series of vernacular architecture. And of course, the very seminal work by Kok Kiang, his mosque built that point dictate for a long period of time what was the urban compact kind of typology. So in 2012, we questioned, then what's next, right? Since the modernist contemporary exercise is complete. So we begin to look at other things. Perhaps the question would become less formalistic or less in a sense of, in terms of language, maybe it's something else. So we were thinking of picking up from a sentence from a brief to demystify. Very interesting. Wow, never think of it that way. To demystify Islam. Then you think about, makes sense. Because if you look at it, mosques are always kind of mysterious to you as outsiders. And they are always centered in a community that's largely non-Muslim. That is a kind of typical, unlike our neighboring country, right? Mosque is what mystic, there's no mistake about it. But in Singapore, it is really that. So the other context was interesting, was at that point in time, in a very, so to speak, democratic, westernized world, right? In this Swiss minaret referendum was introduced, which if any one of you remember, caused quite a big uproar to the architecture community. That how come? Why? Why this kind of polarization, right? And that really set the stage for us to imagine that this could be something to look at, to kind of examine the idea of an open mosque. So open mosque, in a sense, massing-wise, we try to create. Mosque is kind of like monolithic, most like, that's one building, right? We realize that functionally it's not. Usually it has the three main components: the prayer hall, the seminar rooms, and the administration. Kind of distinct function. Why not express that? That was a starting point. The idea of open mosque also became not just transparency and porosity in terms of thinking, but it was also about accessibility to outsiders. But it creates problem. So the two words, mosque, open, right? Open. Mosque doesn't want to be open because there's so much function of it, the protection of sanity, the need for threshold, the need to articulate permanence, the need for privacy for our context, to be symbolic, to create shelter, was something that we have to, that it becomes an exercise to mitigate this dichotomy of being open and closed at the same time. So this is the entrance without walls, without gate, without door. Almost I created a kind of first story void deck prayer space. To be permeable to the visual connection to the community, permeable to the weather, which makes perfect sense, right? Because mosque is one of the few institutions that is totally reliant on natural ventilation. That kind of design makes perfect sense in the tropics. But with that openness, right, everyone will realize that, how about the rain, right? So it is not easy at all. You want the good part of the weather of the tropics, but you want to shut out what's nasty about the tropics as well. So accessibility, connection is multi-tier. There's no one main entrance. There's several accesses to the basement, to the elevated piazza. So not in a way to break down what's the importance of a particular main entrance, but you have multiple entrance or exit to the mosque. Having a piazza deck, in a sense, to create the porous void deck prayer space, but on top of it, organized in different function groups, a kind of village of buildings rather than a singular building. And of course, openness has this problem because this is a photo taken from construction that the distance away from a neighbor to the backyard to the laundry is within inches. Anything in Singapore is near, I guess. So with that, design becomes important to kind of create openness, visual connection, ventilation through means. I introduced this what called the ear, the fondly called, in a way to catch the wind, to divert the visual, to respect the neighbors so that you don't stare into their private space. Moments that are open up, controlled, that allow for that transparency where the rest are protected. The bulb is a way, instead of main door, we create this archway as kind of sense of entrance, of hierarchy, steps, series of gentle steps, and water body in front suggests a change in pace and of entering into a sacred space. And throughout that entire language was all about this mitigation between what should be open, what you want to be open, and what should be closed. And of course, with that, we managed, I think, I don't know whether it's safe to say, the only mosque where the wall that faces the mirror direction is transparent. Usually it's just a solid wall that you meditate against and protect against to create that shutdown. We created this openness to connect, but of course, the protection comes through layers of a buffer, through landscape, through the big overhanging roof to protect that sense of openness that is almost impossible in a very tight, compact planning environment, right? So very quickly, I'll go through. The dome, in a way, was they wanted something like that. We, as a true blood modernist, everything must be functional. So we really turned a dome instead, which was traditionally the amplifying hall, but now it's situated on top of a terrace. Of course, no better use of it becomes a dome pavilion of trellis. that protects that outdoor space and as offer that symbolic dimension. And with that idea of porosity and openness, there's an extension into a later project in the same district, Punggol, the Soka Center in 2022, was the idea of breaking it down of a perforated building, so to speak. Because a religious center like that is actually a series of different size of function room like this that's connected by corridors and lift. So that is the most compact form. Then we think about it, maybe we should punctuate it with courtyards. And so that your journey to wherever you are is always, after you exit the lift, is always through a garden, outdoor space. And that was something, the experiment that we were trying to do, kind of to connect community through designing of gaps. Gaps to connect with nature. Where you make the space immediately more accessible, more controlled visibility and connection to the neighborhood that you are situated. And with that, I go on to TMW, which is really next door, right? Maxwell House. It was an interesting take, mixed development, 300 over units of largely studio apartments. We were looking at city and nature. For the first time, you're living in city, right? How about nature? City and nature in Singapore, right? So city and nature in the sense there are various devices and things that I'm sure the floor is familiar with. Communal sky terraces, usually garden in the sky, right? Kind of invention by URA, and there's also planted balconies, largely planted to enmesh the building with structure with plants, of course, planted facade as well as a kind of means to extend this ecology in the city, right? But we felt that is there something in between, and that's where we begin to kind of expand the application of sky terraces. How could it be a bit different? First, definitely stack it. Stacking is common now. Then we begin, since we stack it, right, why don't we stagger it? So that they are floor to floor, they are kind of visual connection, although they are different floor. And since you stagger it, why don't we connect them as certain part, right? And if they are connected, then they become a vertical park, isn't it? And the advantage of that was quite clear, I thought, that as alternative, that you have the garden in the sky, why not have a tower of garden instead? That become, for one, you have a more democratic surveillance of the city, right, at various floors instead of one particular viewpoint. And two, every unit is kind of like have a sky terrace that's near you, rather than you have to go to a particular floor. So the idea of a vertical park was something very both programmatic and natural in the sense of kind of rethinking what sky terraces could be, because we also kind of mathematically kind of understand the same footage, right, in a singular floor, right, once you stack it out 8 times, 16 times, right, there's some advantage to that. First of all, it becomes vertical, it becomes a green facade, you create a softer edge, and in this case, a gable end, and the perimeter, planting perimeter immediately multiplied by three times. So isn't that better? More potential for rainwater collection, more biodiversity in a way of interfacing with the city. So a model, that we did, we are fascinated with a model of kind of study of different programmatic arrangement, amenities that could be kind of distributed throughout. So it is not just a sky terrace, but it is a space, an outdoor living space for the unit. So studio apartment is especially important because if your unit is small, then you need this extension of living spaces. So a third space perhaps to replace what is a cafe, but these are spaces that you can go to be on your own or be in a group. The sky terraces extend into the podium, which is essential shopping. So we created a elevated shopping street because in that sense it expand the frontages of shop front, but importantly it also kind of create a softer edge to react to the surrounding conserved buildings, that you create more porosity and connection and buffering. So of course, our vision at the start was really to create a new phase of live, work, and play, which I think will be very suitable for URA as a kind of banner. And with that, interestingly, it set us thinking, okay, since I have that, right, a very scalable idea of thinking of scale, instead of thinking of building and design building, you're thinking of a part like Sky Terrace. Once you do that, right, the design could be very scalable. I was thinking, yeah, you could extend, you have something that works, right? You could extend it to public housing. You could extend to offices. You could extend to institutions. You could, a perfect match, which I hope to implement, obviously, will be extended immediately to student housing. And of course, in this case, ORPC, Orchard Road Presbyterian Church, orientation is the church next to, in front of Fort Canning and beside YMCA, was an opportunity for us to kind of conserve the building structure and add a new annex. So then the vision of new annex come about. Okay, what can we do about that with the new annex? Then was the idea of, yeah, we could, and I thought it was kind of relevant to the site of reconnecting the hill because it was in a strategic position that potentially could connect Orchard Road, Cathay Green to Fort Canning on the hill at the back. So annex added to it, or the design that we added to it should serve that, to strengthen that potential connection at the urban level. So sectionally, that was what we are thinking. Fort Canning Road on the more elevated ground, right? We created an annex with two frontage. One, which is front Orchard at the lower end, or lower hill, and the other access from Fort Canning. And with that idea, a Pudo that is elevated rather than always grounded. In this case, we introduced an elevated Pudo on the second floor, but the first floor of Fort Canning. With kind of Pudo is a void deck. As such, we managed to create a first and second story kind of porosity that would eventually create that kind of visual connection and that will reveal the hue in that sense. So the project became 1 minute left. Yes, but I'm pretty on time. was adapted in this scenario. The Sky Terraces that we learned from TMW and still going through the planning process to become a series of vertically connected Sky Terraces. That it becomes a staircase. It becomes, more importantly, a vertical boulevard. So this vertical boulevard, in this context, right, will become the extroverted space of the church, which you always find that sometimes they get too introverted. Prayer space, that everybody's happening. Why not in this very strategic location, right? The activities would happen in this boulevard, gathering, discussion. There's an opportunity to present a space where the community would be able to understand, to penetrate this otherwise usually very introverted program. Yeah. So with that, I'm going to end my talk. That I sum it up, I believe and truly believe in many architects with us today are optimistic. We believe in the power of architecture, and the objective to that is really to make the world a better place. I couldn't think of anything else if it's not for that. Thank you.
Wow, thank you very much, Alan. To make the world a better place. How nice. Next, we have PDA 2025 Design of the Year Delta Sport Center. And representing Delta Sport Center is architect Teo Yi Chin from Red Bean Architects. Yi Chin is an architect, geographer, and managing partner of Red Bean Architects. With over 2 decades of experience, his work covers commercial, residential, and institutional projects with a particular focus on adaptive reuse as a sustainable design approach. He's also a former chief editor of the Singapore Architect magazine and a published critic on Singapore's built environment. He holds a PhD in geography from NUS, where he researched the political landscapes of rice farming communities in Taiwan, and in 2017, he was named one of URA's 20 under 45 top young architects. Please welcome architect Yi Chin. Yi Chin, please.
Morning. It was really inspiring to see Alan's journey and prolific body of work. I'm really excited to see TMW come up completed. Thank you, URA and DesignSingapore for organizing this forum. I'll be sharing with you the story of Delta Sports Centre, a project that we started with Sports Singapore in 2017. And it is essentially a rejuvenation of an aging sports complex that was actually first built in 1979. I believe that all projects have their origins in a time much further back than when you received the commission. For me, my knowledge of this place actually started 34 years ago when I trained and competed as a hockey player on the AstroTurf pitch of Delta Sports Complex. The personal connection made this project extra special to me and probably gave me a deeper understanding of the spaces. I want to link the bigger idea of our design to another childhood memory, me on excursions with my mom, going shopping in town, and she shopped at OG People's Park. And one of the things I remember was entering OG People's Park on one side of Upper Cross Street and ending up on the other in People's Park Center, which had a very different vibe from the OG building. So it's from this part here. From here, you end up here, going through this. So I remember being very fascinated by this magical experience. And the reason for this space-time warp, I later found out, was that wide, completely enclosed bridge, there was also a departmental store linking the two buildings. And this map, which I borrowed from Brian Lee, of all the above-ground building-to-building connections in the Chinatown area, remind us that this urban interpretation of architecture was actually a design paradigm in a certain era of Singapore. In 2014, because I live in the East, I was fascinated by another above-ground building-to-building connection that linked Marine Parade to East Coast, and mainly through the Roxy Square buildings. And I made a map to document this, and those who live in the East may know what I'm talking about. But anyway, jump to 2016, as a part of, we do quite a lot of jobs where we do term consultancy for institutions, and this is part of one such job for Ngee Ann Polytechnic. The client asked us to look into enhancing the weatherproof connectivity between the various standalone buildings in the campus. And to do this, we had to adapt to the existing terrain and geometry of the campus roads, such as this curved linkway that had to cross a road and go down a curved winding road. Not easy to do technically. We also had to adapt to the existing terrain and work around the existing big trees, where it was more direct. We didn't make covered linkways as a default solution, but actually make connections through buildings by opening up M&E spaces to become public corridors. So basically, we found this or developed this site-specific way of working, thinking of the campus as a network of connected buildings. Anyway, I believe that these earlier episodes influence the way we conceptualize Delta. And I want to bring you through the site. Yeah, this is good. And understand the unique context of the site. Delta sits in the middle of several residential clusters, and the luxury condominiums to the north, flanking Alexandra Road, which is slightly blue tone towers there, are quite different from the old flats at Henderson Crescent or Red Hill, right? So you have new and old flats. And there are also newer infill HDB blocks, the one in red dotted line. That's coming up right by the MRT and the swimming pool. So Delta is like this horizontal relief space surrounded by vertical towers. And the existing sports complex in the midst of it all was made up of 3 parts: the indoor sports hall, the yellow one, the hockey stadium, the green one, and the swimming complex, the blue one. And these were actually pretty much standalone and not well connected. For example, these pictures show the space between the swimming complex and the hockey stadium. This is the hockey stadium with the fans. Swimming complex is on this side here. Okay, and these show the space between the hockey stadium and the indoor hall. So the reason why these buildings were separate entities was that the spectator seating of the stadium and the hockey pitch sort of have this exclusive relationship talking to one another because it's a stadium. You know, people play for an audience, right? So this kind of shut out other elements and didn't help that there were these tall fences that were needed for safety to prevent the hockey ball from flying out. The buildings were also not great in kind of speaking to their surroundings. The sports hall was wrapped in an opaque brick wall. Again, this is due to the nature of the sports facilities that tended to be inward-looking and self-absorbed. However, things have also changed somewhat with more advanced arenas coming up elsewhere in Singapore. The facilities are no longer used for competitions so much. The playing courts are still very much in demand by residents. In fact, they are often overbooked. But the seats for crowds or spectators are perhaps much less needed now. The same goes for the hockey stadium. Sengkang Hockey Stadium is now the place for most competitions. So more often than not, these steps are left empty. Schools and teams still train on the pitch, but there's seldom, kind of a crowd that fills up these steps. The steps also produce this front and back condition so that if you're walking behind it, you're either beside a blank wall or some surfaces. Notice also the amount of space, the vast space between the spectator stands and the actual playing area. So when Delta was first completed in 1979, it actually took its entrance from Tiong Bahru Road on the right, this road, right? But in the late 1980s, Singapore started running its east-west line, one of our first MRT lines, and unfortunately, right in front of Delta, the track rises from underground to overhead track, and you have this bunker-like structure that crudely blocked off the relationship between Delta and Redhill Estate, including the previous entrance from Tiong Bahru Road. So since then, cars have had to take a big detour to get to the car park, go around this, enter via Henderson Crescent and Long Road back in. And while the one-story swimming complex was hardly visible anymore behind the MRT structure. So when we first looked at the site and the brief, there were a few things we wanted to do. We wanted to respond to the changes in program and context that had unfolded across time and intervene by retaining existing structures while making a few deliberate tweaks. The first was to make a thoroughfare from Tiong Bahru Road to Alexandra Road, especially using a second-story connection to connect the three previously quite separate components. The second was to activate the ends of the long complex at Tiong Bahru Road and Alexandra Road with certain architectural features and also commercial F&B frontage to draw people into this route. So we also wanted to convert some of these empty spectator areas into more active spaces for people to use. And along with that, we hope to open up the opaque walls of the various spaces and take away fences as much as we could. And after a few rounds with the client, we developed this idea of a one active bridge. The idea was to link up the three separate venues as an integrated complex on the second story using existing pieces already in place and then linking them up with new bridges. One of these key pieces was the existing overhead bridge that was bringing pedestrians over the MRT track and back down. But we thought, hey, why not just don't come down, just go straight into the complex because it sort of matches to the second story levels. And then the other piece was the hockey stadium seating. Just now you saw the concrete tier seating, but the top tier of the seats was at the second story level, more or less the platform level. And we reconceived it from a top landing, just a mere top landing, to a circulation corridor along its length, so kind of turning the orientation perpendicularly. Then at the Alexandra Road end, after we descend back onto the ground, we pedestrianized the single lane road here and made a covered linkway to the bus stop there. So this is an overview of the completed project. Construction started in September 2019, so not long after that, we entered a period of virtual sidewalks, face masks, and of course getting your noses poked and tickled. This picture shows the profile of the stadium seating after they were hacked off. I would say structural modifications like this form actually one big part of the construction process. We not only removed the tiers of seats, we also had to remove the timber ceiling boards because they didn't comply with the flammable surface clause in the fire code. This image shows the infill walls having been taken out of the RC frame of the rear of the indoor hall block, which is actually a 1991 edition. Yeah, it's gone through a few A&As, which housed a gym, dance studios, and childcare center over 3 floors. We removed the 3rd story slab and kept the 2nd story, we removed this, kept the 2nd story slab. So it created kind of a piano nobile, an elevated double volume space that is free to use. We eventually also removed this beam in the middle. And inside the sports hall, looking towards Alexandra Road, this is a new slab built in place after we removed a whole bank of spectator seating on this side. And then you come to some important key additions, such as this bridge that connects the hockey stadium to the buildings on the 2 sides. Just a little anecdote. We retained the existing lap pool and we had to keep also the floor tiles, the pool tiles. And the builders could not drain the pool because tiles cannot be wet, have to be kept wet, cannot be exposed to the rain and the sun across the whole construction period as they would start cracking. So to keep the tiles always soaked with minimal maintenance, the builders didn't want to use filtration or chlorine, but they threw fishes in there to control the mosquitoes. But somehow this ecosystem wasn't quite balanced and algae started blooming. But actually the plan was working well enough in the sense that there was no mosquitoes, but the problem was it actually looks pretty gross from far. And eventually a resident in a nearby tower who had been watching over the site progress with keen interest called the authorities to complain. They thought it was going to breed mosquitoes, but actually complete reverse. But anyway, the builders had no choice. Once you get a public complaint like that, and you are in full view, they had to drain the pool and find other ways. But I think this episode also shows the spatial setting of Delta as an open space surrounded by towers, and therefore having high visibility to residents. Perhaps it lends itself to being a focal point and a community space. Moving on, and jumping ahead to the architectural aspect of the work, for large parts of this project, we're actually articulating with the existing structural frame and subtracting elements more than adding. For the parts that we did add, they will focus on a new gym block that overlooks the MRT track and that greets people at the drop-off point. So in this staircase wall, to achieve natural ventilation, but not have conventional windows breaking up the massing that we wanted, we came up with these small holes that were tilted downwards, so light and air can come in, but not water. So Alan had these ears, I have these noses. To achieve this with minimal costs, we specified plastic pipes to be part of the formwork. But the builder didn't want to knock out the plastic pipes after casting, so they used steel pipes that were left in there permanently. The other architectural highlight of this project is the facade of gym block. And to achieve views out and keep out heat from the sun, we designed concrete fins that strictly face east or west, while the glass panels that meet them at 90 degrees only face north or south. What this translates to simple English is that it makes a zigzag envelope that intentionally also makes reference to the V-shaped motifs that recur in the existing structure. The design intent is to keep the edges thin on the top and bottom, so these concrete eaves were tapered. Not an easy feat because, or rather it's important because the span is sizable, so the beams are actually quite huge. I'm now going to show some images of the completed project and also talk more about how people use the building. The sequence will be more or less following the path of the pedestrian thoroughfare. Starting from here, which is where the overhead bridge comes into the complex. We're quite happy to see that people have taken naturally to this promenade, and I'm pretty sure some are using it not just to access the sports complex, but also just passing through, which was our intention. What the thoroughfare does is that it provides a promenade that cuts across the complex and its various activities. It allows people, even passers-by, to walk through and look down at the various sporting spaces. It creates a regular audience for the players and generates a dynamic scenery for the pedestrians. When you enter into this volume as a pedestrian, you share the atmosphere of the people playing, having fun in the water. And the second chunk of activities is the open ball courts. They were intended for futsal and hockey fives, but lately, the most popularly used for pickleball. Do take note of the amount of space we managed to find between the main hockey pitch and the walkway. We can squeeze in so many courts. I believe that by replacing the stationary spectator with a moving passerby, removing concrete seats to make more playing space, we correctly recalibrated the ratio of game player to viewer for a community sports facility. So do take note, these photos were taken on a Wednesday, late morning, actually just yesterday. That's why I sent the slides late. Hardly peak hour, yeah? So these 6 badminton courts were fully booked. And this is after we added 2 courts to the original 4 by replacing the spectator seats on the left of the picture. The overall intention is to break down barriers, intensify the space usage, and thereby allow the sport activities and the promenade to have this interaction. Whether you're watching it or playing it, I believe that the dynamism and the unpredictability of sport can be a catalyst for people to start new conversations. So sport and community are actually 2 very compatible ideas. Part of the space freed up from the spectating areas was used to make a new dance studio facing Alexandra Road and the mature trees which we retained. The former brick wall, which you saw earlier, was removed to expose the concrete frame, and we installed full-height glazing in place of the walls. Note also there used to be a 1-lane road here, which we pedestrianized to make for a smoother crossing to the bus stop, and a covered linkway. Zooming out to see the entire sports hall from Alexandra Road, here we took away the enclosing wall around the staircase in the corner. Architecturally, we basically work with the existing language of frames, blocks, and gaps, but making targeted interventions to sharpen the articulation. And the same goes for the rear of the same indoor hall block facing the hockey pitch. With the void created in the facade, we can read the plinth and the roof more clearly. A new staircase is incorporated to connect better to the Henderson Crescent boundary and flats, which is seen in this next picture. And this picture is taken on the other side of the hockey stadium structure. Other than the jogging track that winds around the whole compound, you can just about see the porosity that we achieved by taking out the steps. This is to the pickleball courts. And back at the entrance and the swimming complex, this is a view showing the gym facade and the perforated staircase wall. I showed the pictures of them under construction earlier. And I like these pictures very, very much because it shows that this gym block becomes a horizontal slab that forms a plinth for the vertical towers in the background, also connecting them visually. In the foreground, it's a lead pool that was preserved, including the mosaic finished starter blocks. Hardly see this nowadays. And the same horizontal and vertical juxtaposition from Tiong Bahru Road. The gym block just hovers above the MRT track, which is very important to us, to this scheme. Right, and this is a close-up view of the gym block. But actually from the other side, when you're inside, the elevated box then frames the surroundings in various angles, giving users on the inside a different perspective of the surroundings. So here's a 2-minute walkthrough video showing the promenade from Red Hill to Tiong Bahru on the elevated thoroughfare, and then coming back on the ground floor. I took this myself, so sorry for the jerkiness. Note especially the activities that you can see as you move along this thoroughfare. So we just used all the existing corridors in the indoor hall to form part of this thoroughfare. Here you come down Alexandra Roadside. So I'm going to go back on the ground floor, back towards Tiong Bahru Roadside. And these open wide corridors are actually quite naturally used for informal games, table tennis, badminton. And remember, before the seats were taken out and these courts added, you were walking behind a blank wall when you walk on this side of the building. To conclude, we believe that the city is constantly evolving and the building can adapt to these changes without being torn down. The idea is to keep the core identity of the building as we improve its relevance to current flows and events. It is to embed the center in the neighborhood, be a lively space for different communities to come together, play together, or just see one another. After the interventions, the building remains familiar and comfortably nestled within the existing estate, but now more visible and more accessible. We hope that Delta Sports Centre continues to serve as this active bridge between neighborhoods and communities here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Gian, for sharing your insights with us as well as your personal anecdotes as well. Thank you. And our next speaker is Mr. Gian Jonathan, a partner at Kinetic Singapore. He represents School of Tomorrow, one of this year's Design of the Year recipients. Gian is a creative director and partner at Kinetic, where he has helped shape the agency's distinctive cross-disciplinary work in branding, campaigns, and experiential design. Starting as a graphic designer fresh out of school, he rose through the ranks to become a key creative force. His work has earned accolades from D&AD, The One Show, Cannes Lions, where he also served as a judge. A former serial winner at the Singapore Gong Show, he was named Best Young Art Director and Designer 5 times. Please welcome Gian. Gian, please.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Gian. I'm creative director and partner in Kinetic Singapore. I'm thrilled to be here today to share the project that's close to my heart, which is School of Tomorrow. So we first talk about how did it begin. So we were briefed by DesignSingapore to stage an exhibition for Singapore Design Week in 2023 about sustainability. Our initial reaction was, wow, sustainability is quite a difficult topic, right? It's challenging, and we know that we have to combat the fatigue surrounding this topic. Our response was, instead of a normal exhibition, we decided to set up a school. So why school? I get this question a lot, like, why is it school? Because to us, it makes perfect sense, because school is where we learn everything. So where better to learn about the most challenging issue of our times other than school, and everyone go to school, right? So let me play this video to show you guys about the project.
From our ABCs and 1, 2, 3s to so much more, we learn everything in school. So why shouldn't it prepare us for our greatest test, the threats and challenges of a changing planet? Come enroll in School of Tomorrow. From the sciences to the humanities, 10 familiar school subjects are given a sustainability twist, offering lessons on critical environmental issues. In biology, see how plastic is changing the human anatomy through contaminated food chains. Learn about eco-alternatives, such as bioplastics and mycelium biocomposites. Chemistry class tackles the twin problems of waste and diminishing resources by proposing a new periodic table. Discover how elements like dog fur and cigarette butts can be upcycled into novel materials. In 2026, a solar system featuring 3.5 Earths dramatizes our overconsumption of energy and the planet's resources. The topic of climate change is brought to life by a geography class disrupted by flooding. Unlike real life, math proves to be a popular subject, letting students calculate their carbon footprint and showing ways to improve their score. Other subjects like home economics, art, physical education, and social studies address more environmental issues while showcasing solutions too. Time for recess? The canteen dishes out sustainable meals, starting with insect protein bars and algae smoothies. And no school would be complete without a library, a bookshop, and a sick bay. Over its 11-day run, the School of Tomorrow welcomed more than 6,000 students of all ages and was featured on multiple news and design sites. There are plans to set up School of Tomorrow in another location, and even abroad, so not to worry about the exhibits going to waste. See you back in school, real soon.
Thank you. Yeah, so as you can see from the video, we were lucky to find a nice venue partner, which is Seligi Art Center. Ideally, we wanted to find a real school that's abandoned, but we couldn't find it at that time. But we found Seligi Art Center, and we dressed up the exterior to make it look like school, and like even installing a flag outside the buildings. Then to make the school experience complete, our gallery sitters is actually act like a class monitor to educate the visitors. And we were also, this is something that I also feel so glad that actually the gallery sitters really take this topic very more than like a job. They're really passionate about it and really educate the visitors. So I think this is a topic that is resonate well with them also. Then, okay, about the school subject, what do we teach? We use familiar school subject like math, biology, physics, chemistry, but we put a sustainability twist to it to present environmental issues like waste, pollution, climate change, and etc. So we also design like a textbook cover to present each subject. This is something that we had really fun doing it. Then these are how the classes look like. We wanted to make it looks and feel familiar, like a school class setting. Each class are designed to present the problem as well as the solution. So let me bring you to a little school tour. So the first class will be a biology class. In this class, we teach people on how microplastics has already infiltrated our system. So how do we show it is we put on display vintage anatomy models of humans and animals stuffed with plastic waste to show the extent of plastic pollution. Then other than the problem, we also presented the solution, right? So we have educational posters on the wall that talk about new plastic alternative, and we converted the classroom table to present bioplastics, which is the new plastic alternative made from rice, used cooking oils, animal-based bioplastic. So there are really actually a lot of plastic alternative nowadays that is being development, or also some has already been adopted. So the idea of this is so people can sit down and really study. We also create this tabletop using plastic made from recycled bottle caps that we collaborate with Robris from Indonesia. Then after feeling inspired after the bio class, you can proceed to the science lab where we show you how to make your own bioplastic experiment. So we have an experiment that you can do at home. Then we also show other biomaterials like mycelium that is being used nowadays for construction. Then moving on to the chemistry class, we reimagine the periodic table into a periodic table of tomorrow. So instead of the normal materials like iron, silver, gold, we feature new materials made from waste, such as like human hair, mango waste, and even human urine. So a lot of people are intrigued by this periodic table because like they can't imagine they are many ways to use waste. There are even one that is made from cow dung, a speaker. So in the chemistry class, there are some materials that we did a bigger showcase. So we collaborated with Cynthia Chan. We featured her. So what she did was she collected dog fur from a dog salon and turned them into a rug. We also have like a studio hole from Mexico. So so they use rambutan peels turned into material to make bowls and home objects. So we also enjoy creating details in the experience. So we also create like this kind of school research paper for people to learn about the material deeper if they are interested. Then in physics class, we show solar system with 3.5 Earth to show the impact of our overconsumption. So by the data, right, the way we consume, actually we need 3.5 Earth. And that's in 2023. I just checked this not long ago. Actually now we need about 6 Earth. Yeah, so that's why it's important. Then we go to the math class. So this class was popular. You can calculate your carbon footprint based on the food you eat, based on your commute, shopping, home, travel, recreations. A lot of people burst their carbon footprint, and they keep playing on how to keep their score low. On the student table, we also have charts and infographics to share simple, actionable changes to reduce our carbon footprint, like don't travel so far, walk, and don't shop internationally. So in the geography class, we want the geography class to show the impact of global warming and extreme weather. So we created like a flooding in the class. So this one we get a used second-hand school tables, and we ask our pipe uncle near our office to cut them, to create the illusion of sinking classrooms. Then in home econs, we introduced the new sustainable materials like ladders from fruit waste, pineapple leaves, seaweed, and even mycelium, which now mycelium has been used by the bigger fashion houses to make their fashion collection. So it's encouraging to see the bigger house, the bigger player taking this up to reach more people. Then in arts class, we collaborate with Singapore studio Wild Dot. They create ink made from fallen leaves and flowers. So visitors could try their hands to draw in art class, and at the end of the exhibition, it was quite fun to see what people are drawing. Then in a PE class, we have this locker that shows sports equipment made from sustainable material, like cactus leather boxing gloves, skateboard made from fishing nets, and basketball made from sugarcane biofoam. Then time for recess. The canteen of tomorrow serves future food, such as roasted cricket, larvae, bem nut milk, mushroom jerky, and so forth. Then visitor could come and try. Usually they try the cricket and they quite surprised. Actually, it's not bad. Then other than the food, we also show alternatives to single-use wares and even edible cutlery. So no school is complete without a library. Visitor can read about sustainability topics in our library and browse stationery made from eco materials at our bookshop. Then one of my favorite part is this motivational poster. So we use this cheesy motivational poster template, but we put a spin on it. So like this one, every storm shall pass. Just that they will be more frequent, stronger, and deadly. So then like this one, trailblazing, but we show the forest in fire. Then swim against the tide. So we also created this cool bulletin. Like I said, we like to create the details of the experience. So this cool bulletin is serve as additional reading materials about our classes. And as a fun touch, over at the sick bay, we can see the earth that is sick. So it complete with well wishes and cards about why the earth has fever and how we can prevent it. Then we are very grateful. We had a lot of students, 6,000 over 11-day run from young to old. I think this is something that we feel that it resonates well to them because whether you are young or whether you are old, you went to school before. So this kind of relatability is very important when we do our project because once you can relate, you will engage. So we also host school tours from preschools up to 30 students. And personally, that's one of my most memorable part of the project. We see how they engage, they ask questions, and basically had fun in the schools. Then after that, we were surprised to receive this actually from the preschool student. They say, hey, look, after the visit, the student make this drawing to imagine what kind of new materials that inspire them next. So they say, wow. So it feels like it's a very heartwarming thing that actually the student really quite find this experience quite memorable. Then at the end of 2024, we opened a term 2 at New Baru. So DSG asked us, hey, let's open a second edition at New Baru, where we have additional class and also refresh on some of the classes. So in this way also, we also give second lease of life to our props and our exhibits, so that it's not do one time and just throw away, right? So after all this, we ask ourselves, what's next? Because this exhibition runs for a limited time period, so how can we keep this school alive and making it accessible beyond that a certain period so that many people can enjoy it more? So we are actually working on the School of Tomorrow in a digital form. So we want to create like a virtual online learning platform. So like we will recreate the school in a digitally. Yeah, so we are working on it. So this, we feel that this will give us a new vehicle and keep the School of Tomorrow, so that we can update the exhibit, we can update the topic as and when we have a new innovation and whatnot. Because this topic is ever evolving, it's non-stop, right? And another approach would be to collaborate with schools. We hope we can collaborate with schools to put some of our classes there, maybe like a portion of it, or maybe like a cluster of it. And it will be great if they can implement this, it's like in their curriculum or something. So that from it went beyond an exhibition, it become like a real life experience of learning. And yeah, thank you. So this the last message. When it comes to sustainability, the learning never stops. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Gian. Thank you. Wow, what a colorful presentation. And thank you very much for that. And now we will be inviting our final speakers for today's forum. Representing Silver Pride Lion Troupe, one of this year's Design of the Year recipients, we have Mr. Edmund Zhang from NextOfKin Creatives and Ms. Lynn Wong from Bridging Generations. Edmund is an interdisciplinary designer at NextOfKin Creatives, and Lynn is the founder of heritage consultancy Bridging Generations. They're both passionate about using design to foster meaningful community connections. Edmund led the design of the Silver Pride Lion Troupe, skillfully blending service design with community co-creation, while Lynn is widely recognized for her pioneering work in cultural revitalization and intergenerational engagement through immersive, socially impactful experiences. Let's welcome Edmund and Lynn. Edmund and Lynn, please.
Thank you, everyone. Good morning. We're also glad to be here, so thank you for having us. Yes, without further ado, click. Yes. So you can see, actually, this is a very interdisciplinary project. We have many stakeholders involved. So, of course, we have Edmund coming from NextOfKin Creatives from design aspect. So you can think of it as the hardware. And then Bridging Generations is more of like the software. We are more into the social experiences as well as designing with stakeholders. And then we have also social services engaged Fei Yue Yong En, as well as my clan association, which is 185 years old this year. It's Gong Zhao Wei Gun. And then we, of course, have to thank Lynn Foundation for actually matchmaking and bringing all this together. Yeah, so I guess everyone knows, right? Singapore is not just aging, it's super aging, right? So by 2026, we will become a super aged society. And we not sure if you know about how Singapore is tackling this issue. So basically, we have these things called active aging centers that is happening all around Singapore, whereby we want to have aging in place. So that means you have centers that is just in your neighborhoods to engage the seniors in terms of activities. So it could be like in this photograph, you can see them doing Zumba exercises, stretching. And also, extra $140 million is going to be put into expanding these active aging centers. And so, heritage has always been about linked with happy memories for a lot of these seniors that come through our doors as well. So you actually can see the seniors, this is the first time they enter a clan association, and immediately once you pass them the cymbals or like the instruments, they start playing. It's something that reminds them of happy memories, especially like Chinese New Year, right? As it's not just for the Chinese. And you can see from our pilot, we actually have like Malay machiks joining us as well. And they are actually doing Zumba exercises that is sort of inspired by martial arts moves. And it's playing to the Wong kind of music. Yeah, so it just shows how multi-racial we are, right? And you can see everyone can enjoy a similar activity. Yeah. But of course, a lot of times it's in hindsight, right? When we see the end product, we forget that there's a lot of challenges that goes along the way. And in fact, many of them didn't believe in the seniors, right? Because initially when we started this project in 2023, when we first sort of mooted the idea and sort of like say, oh, can we do lion dance for seniors? A lot of people are telling us, wow, like, mom, don't break your leg, right? Or even like for the active aging centers, it was also about like ensuring safety. Let's hear a soundbite.
你有没有跟你的好像孙啊讲啊，我阿嬷要学舞狮了？哦，女儿讲哈，没有搞错。
Yeah, so right, like even for the grandmother, right, trying to convince the grandchildren, like, hey, grandma's going to play lion dance, right? So safety is always on their minds, and a lot of times it's not just their self-doubt, but also the community also doubting whether this is possible. Yep, so in fact, when we went around, there were a lot of objections in a sense, right? Say, there's no space in our centers, or is it safe for seniors? Or it's too loud, lion dance, gosh, will the neighbors complain? Right, so these are little kinds of objections we faced. But how do we tackle them one by one? So that's where all this kind of experience and also working with stakeholders come into place. So for instance, if there's no space, well, that's where we activate spaces like the void decks to actually have it near the neighborhood, somewhere where the seniors can just come down and just lower the barriers to entry, right? And say, what if it's too loud? The neighbors complain, right? And that's where we work with the hardware part, to create the softeners, the mufflers to actually soften the sound. Right? So that they still have that tactile feeling of playing the instrument and yet also not creating a din for their neighbors. And also, it's not just for the cymbals, it's also for the drums. You can see how we actually added additional pads to it so that the vibration is not too loud as well. Yep. And then, is it safe for the seniors? I think this is the part where we actually spend a lot of effort trying to create, because it's this whole mentality shift that's required. And a lot of times, seeing is believing. And what we did was to actually make it a low-hanging fruit for these active aging seniors. What we do is that, seniors, they like to do excursions. They do not want to always be in the same space. And that's where we curated this excursion to the clan association, the 185-year-old clan association, Gong Zhao Wei Gun. And that's where we also see, for the first hand, the adaptation of the lion dance for seniors. And that's where you can see in the middle, that's our master actually sitting on a wheelchair to perform the lion dance. And for the seniors themselves, seeing is believing. And when that happens, that they feel that, hey, I can do that too, even though thinking in mind, oh, I might fall down, maybe my legs are too weak, I'm not strong enough, right? Happen to be part of this pugilistic world. And so then we know that in the Chinese saying, right, you must find a 掌门人, or like the oldest master kind of thing. So we got the grandmaster out. So what you have in the middle is Master Wong, Xiu Pei Li, sorry, Master Xiu. So he's actually the second generation disciple of Wong Fei Hong. Yeah. Yeah, so that one is big enough, huh? So, and then I'm the 4th generation. So that's where it makes it a lot of legitimate when we actually talk about trying to reimagine the lion dance, as well as because Master Siu himself is actually already aged. He can no longer do lion dance like in the past, and he's actually on a wheelchair and requires on a personal mobility device to go about. So I think that makes it very more legit to actually also hear from his perspective of how can lion dance be also reimagined for the older generation, right? Yeah, so that's where I pass on the time to Edmund. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Lynn. So I think as you can see, right, the journey from idea to outcome is not very straightforward. And I think as designers, we often have to navigate the tango, the fine balance between tradition and innovation. So our very first idea at the start, right, was trying to see whether we can even redesign the entire lion head. But it was quite ambitious, so we eventually thought of why can't we just use existing lion head equipment and find ways to make it more accessible for seniors. So we tried with this method whereby we wanted to allow the weight to be more evenly distributed across the entire body, moving from the head more towards the torso and the lower limbs to reduce the top-heavy experience. And at the same time, we wanted to also make the lion dance more inclusive for seniors, especially for those with varying mobility, right? So I think we had this idea of a 风火轮师. In English, it means a fiery wheel lion dance. So it's inspired by Naja. But you also realize that having the wheelchair at the back is not the most practical solution. So we changed it up. We moved the wheelchair to the front. So in this case, the lion dancer in the front just focuses on the overall movements of the head, while the back dancer will dictate the overall direction and the movement. And I think in this case, having Lynn on board and her clan was really useful for us because Master Siu in this case was able to help us to develop a wheelchair-enabled choreography, and while still retaining the essence and the traditions of lion dance itself. And I think if you watch lion dance, right, you all have seen this thing called cai qing. So cai qing is where they will work with certain fruits and vegetables. It's like a puzzle of sorts. But we also realize that for seniors, squatting down or bending can be quite unsafe or cumbersome. So we actually moved the entire cai qing onto a bench. And if you observe, there's a very small movement by Master Siu. He'll use the leg to kind of signal to the back dancer that, okay, this is the right distance, we should stop here, right? So there are a lot of these small little touches that we also incorporated for this wheelchair-enabled choreography. Okay, so that more or less covers the choreography part. How about the lion head equipment itself, right? So we actually bought an existing lion head frame, and initially we wanted to think of finding better ways to control the eyes and the ears. For conventional lion head, you have to use a string mechanism in the center of the head to kind of pull the eyes and the ears, but it was quite cumbersome. But we also realized that this two-handed lever design might also be an issue for seniors with very limited dexterity in their fingers. So in this case, 3D printing was really a game changer for us because it allowed us to test a lot of ideas very, very quickly, print them out, and then we can test these ideas not only with the lion dance practitioners, but I think more importantly with the seniors themselves. And I think it's through all these different tests with the seniors that we really understood a lot of the fine nuances on what an ideal experience for them to control the head looks like, right? And I think I can still remember one particular story about when this auntie tried it on. She was so happy because she said that when I was a kid, I only saw the lion head, the lion dance from afar, but I never got to touch it. And now being able to be inside the head was something that was really magical for her. So I think at this point, we also realize that sometimes as designers, we are very prone to creating programs or interventions that almost prescribe a solution for them, but not inviting them to be active participants in this process. And I think that was really a huge shift in the thinking for us. So I think in the end, we created a lion head that has a modified 3D printed lever and pulley system, and we have a side-mounted lever at the side that allows the seniors to control the eyes and the ears with very, very minimal effort. We also added small things like a pool noodle at the back, simple interventions to enhance the comfort when they are using the lion head. Yeah, so I think all in all, we really wanted to make the program as inclusive as possible for seniors of all ages. At the point of running this program, 2024, this was our oldest participant, Madam Ma. She was 99 years old. And even at the age, she was still able to partake in the program through her own way. And I believe if she can do it, you all can as well, and many of the seniors as well, right? So I think to extend this program further, we actually went to get hula hoops, and we were very lucky because Decathlon actually sells this particular hula hoop that's very, very similar in circumference to the lion head. So we only had 2 modified lion heads. So for seniors, at the start of each program, they will use the hula hoops to practice the moves before moving on to the actual lion head. And I think for seniors like Uncle Chia over here, who wants an extra challenge, we will add weights to his hula hoop. Yeah, so the weight is also from Decathlon.
Without sponsoring.
So I think the intent is that by going through this 6-week program and progressing all through this different equipment, we wanted the seniors to gradually build strength and dexterity at the end of the pilot. And I think we were also very interested in seeing how we can we foster a sense of community across seniors from different ethnic groups as well. I think lion dance is a very powerful activator for this because we are able to incorporate very, very small, simple rituals. For example, gifting them their own personalized lion dance belt at the start of the program and getting them to belt up before they practice the moves. And we also created their personalized T-shirts with their names on it. And this was when they were gearing up for the showcase performance at the end of the program. So yeah, more pictures of our very proud aunties preparing for the performance. So at the end of the 6-week program, the seniors performed in front of
I never expected that
for their communities.
I will be selected to maneuver the head.
觉得很开心，有机会给我 show to everybody, especially the seniors.
我觉得不错，我们这把年纪可以参加这个节目很好，觉得我们还有活力，年轻啊。
I think the seniors, they really had that kind of a positive attitude to learning, and that's something I find very inspiring. And wow, I mean, to imagine like if I gonna learn lion dance in 6 weeks, gosh, it's gonna be very stressful.
The main goal for active aging is to stay active and remain socially engaged, and this program has achieved that.
Yeah, so I think all in all, we were also very encouraged to see that not only that this project found resonance in our local communities, but also even as far as a small county in Vermont, US. Yeah, not so sure why but anyway, I think it's really great encouragement. And I think my biggest takeaway is sometimes as a young designer, right, I would tend to view heritage as something that is quite traditional, almost opiang, right? But I think through this project, it also opened my eyes, our team's eyes, to seeing how it can be a right ground to, as a vehicle to create very meaningful outcomes of society. And in this case, even using it to combat social stigma in ageism, right? So I think in this case, lion dance is only one such asset. Imagine how many more of these cultural assets can we tap on in Singapore itself. And I think to echo what Alan had shared earlier, I think all in all, I believe that design really has a great capacity to drive positive change and to make society a little bit more beautiful in our own way. And with that, thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Edmund and Lynn. May we invite you to take your seats right here, please? Thank you. And yes, we can feel your passion indeed. What a meaningful project. Thank you. And we hope that you have found the presentations enlightening. We shall now commence our panel discussion. To join Edmund and Lynn, could you please join me to welcome back Architect Alan, Architect Yi Chin, and Gian. And to facilitate this session, please join me in welcoming our moderator, Dr. Wong Sweet Fan, Senior Consultant in Geriatric Medicine and Deputy Chairman of the Medical Board at Khoo Teck Puat Hospital and Yishun Health. Dr. Wong was also one of the design panel jurors for PDA 2025. Dr. Wong is a passionate advocate for functional longevity and aging in place, with extensive cross-sector collaborations in health, social care, education, and design. She leads initiatives in frailty prevention, active aging, and personalized care. Her innovative work has received international recognition, including the UN Public Service Award, IF Social Impact Prize, and Human City Design Award. She has also been honored with the Public Administration Medal and the Public Sector Transformation Exemplary Leader Award for her leadership in health and social integration. Now, we will be having a Q&A segment, and we look forward to your active participation, so please feel free to scan the QR code on the screen to send in your questions so that we can have a meaningful conversation. And with that, I shall now hand the time over to Dr. Wong.
Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us. And let's give a clap to the recipient of the President's Design Award. I thoroughly enjoyed their presentations and the ones earlier, and I hope you have too. Thank you, everyone, for coming here and sharing with us, opening up your brains, your hearts, your genius with the audience. And I don't see any questions yet. Give them some time. But I do have some of my own, yes. And the forum theme today is actually empowering communities. And communities is really where I have a lot of passion for. Okay, and communities, please bear in mind, are not just individuals. They are groups of people. When there are groups of people, you will find MESS, mess, because everybody comes with their own differences, right? And managing those differences is actually one of the things that you need to do when you empower communities and when you engage them. So, I'm going to leave a question with you all first, not for answering yet, because I think it takes time to think when we didn't prepare this, right? We didn't prepare this. I didn't give any questions earlier. So I actually want to know, maybe if you can share your genius with the audience. In designing with community in mind, what is one most important small task that you would do that could make a huge difference, right? There's something that everyone who wants to be a designer and architect that wins an award like the PDA, right, would really want to start from that point. Yeah, so something for you to think through as we go through, and maybe at the end of the session, we can hear from you on that. Yeah, okay? And I don't know about y'all, but I took away a few common words that I heard across all the speakers. Did you hear bridge? I heard bridge. Almost everyone. They were bridging different things together. Yeah? Okay? And one of the things that communities do is connect. And I think when you use the word bridge, you want to connect. So maybe we will start off with Ellen. Yes, you are different in the sense that you are you, right? Your product is you. So yeah,
it's meant to be a joke.
Yeah.
Bridge, yes, bridge builders. In all sense of word, designers or architects or whoever, as a decent human being, should be bridge builders. I mean, we should be bridge builders because by nature, humans are diverse and separated and polarized, are different. To me, life is always two parts of it. Design is always two parts. There's always the good stuff and the bad stuff. And for a person that practices design or architecture or bridge builders, right, the focus is important, which is answering your earlier questions, that what should we do, right? Non-specifically, I think increasingly we need to be focused in the sense of bridging certain aspect Because while doing that, we realize that while we offer a solution of building a particular bridge, that there are other things that comes with it that is not so desirable. And to be brave enough to hold the ground and hold the fort and not be diluted, because otherwise the bridge may not be a very good bridge after all. Yeah, I hope I'm not big.
Thank you, thank you. That's not an answer I expected. Quite insightful, thank you. Ichin, you similar blood one, y'all. So, architect, huh? So, yeah. Maybe a different sense of a bridge in architecture.
I actually built a physical bridge.
Yeah.
I think I would keep an arm's length from kind of claiming to kind of empower communities or build communities, because what we do is to kind of tap into infrastructures, flows of people, activities they do, and facilitate these things. Create the conditions for people to come together and talk. But I wouldn't claim that I can make community happen, right? So, yeah, that's what I have to say.
Okay, your role is to build the bridge. Their role is to make it happen. They are community after all, right? Yeah. Okay, nice. Gian.
Hello. Yes. So to answer your question, Dr. Wong, I think to start a project, right, on what are the small things that to be done to create a community. So I feel from our standpoint as a communication, we are in the communication business. So we always go back to the first thing that is most important, which is the human insight. So we don't set out a design project with I want to make it the nicest thing possible. So usually those kind will fall flat if you don't have the right intention and the right insight. So in this case, we are fortunate to land in the concept of a school which everybody can relate to, and it's inviting, because the last thing we want to do is actually to create like a preachy kind of exhibition, you know. So this one is we are inviting people to come, and they are actually learning willingly. And by this exhibition, we are actually accidentally making a community because we reach out to the educators, the students, the young and the old. So even we found a young student, right? They come back the next day, bring their parents to check out the school. So yeah, in that sense, that's how we build the community. I think create something meaningful that people can relate to.
Thank you. Edmund and Lynn, you get equal parts, please.
Yeah, I will leave Lynn later to give her own interpretation.
Sure. You have different perspectives, so please share with us.
But I think for me, I always enjoyed design because I found it to be a good mix of the arts and the sciences. So I always think that it's a wonderful job if you're like a practical daydreamer. Like you enjoy daydreaming, but you also want to make things happen. Okay. So I think design in that sense, to me, it allows me to also look at the current state of society and seeing what can be better, what can be the future state, and then design is the bridge to kind of think about how can we get there. Yeah.
Thank you.
So the question is, I think everyone's answering different questions.
Yeah, so the common theme across all the designs and the designers, okay, is that of a bridge, and what do you bridge?
Yeah. So very aptly, my company is called Bridging Generations.
Yes.
So we really try to. I think a lot of times people have this different communities that are in silos, and sometimes, and that's where we try to become the conduit to create the environment for things to happen. It's just like how a lot of times people might think of seniors as maybe more of liabilities, but that's why we don't change the tables and make them like assets. I think for the youth as well, there's lots to, vice versa. So I think for us, it's really just trying to create that environment. I wouldn't say that I am empowering them. I think it's really more of we are empowering each other. Yeah.
Thank you, Lynn. And actually, I like to just agree with you in public, right, that the seniors are waiting to be invited. Many of them are ready. And there is something that we fail to bring to the fore, right? So nice, very nice. And honestly, the one word that you brought up that brings me to the next question is actually that of assets. Okay, so in doing design and in providing solutions, many of us start off from a deficit base. What's the problem? Yeah, but I think across the board, the panel here, what we have seen is how they have leveraged the assets. An asset-based approach is a way more powerful approach towards coming up to a better world, which is something I heard again from all of you. Somehow along your way, you've wanted a better world. So what assets do you see in the community that we pass by? Hidden in plain sight sometimes, right? What assets do you see that you can actually bring forth and use that in your design of solutions? Yeah, anyone? Thinking, 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 thinking. Yes, Ellen.
I try to answer as an architect now. This one very specific, interesting thing. I mean, you talk about assets, right? Assets or physical assets. We deal with physical environment. I think those side Eugene's work, right? Adaptive reuse is really something that is very important moving forward. Not because of the obvious reason of carbon responsible and safeguarding heritage, but I think as a designer, as architect, I also see a different face to it. That building, right, are assets. All building are assets. That sometimes you do tabula rasa to complete is, in a way, to me, sometimes, right, is an erasure of a wisdom of earlier generation. Wisdom of the previous designer and architect, that he at that point and moment in time was working out certain things, offer a solution that's relevant at that point. So there's also heritage and memory. That adaptive reuse has a chance to incorporate, hybridize, mess things up, to incorporate this idea of two wisdoms or new wisdoms, layering it, that what you bring to the table solves certain things, but you also retain and protect what was acknowledged, and even sometimes even emphasize it. Because we like to take things for granted that we used to it, but bring that to the table and bring that to the light to demonstrate. And then I felt that that's really important as designers, that we recognize the need for intelligence. Since we had the earlier discussion that since the rise of artificial intelligence, I think to be human is really to safeguard that aspect. Otherwise, very pessimistic things will come about, right?
Thank you. Thank you, Ichin. I think this is the right spot for you to now come in.
Okay, Ellen took my answer.
Magnify,
Yeah, actually, I wanted to talk about the things outside the object. When you look at a design brief, you always look at the object. You look at the problem you're trying to solve, but I like to look outside of it. And in this case, the assets are really the infrastructures that exist around the building, which sometimes we talk about conserving a building. I know my friends in conservation probably not very happy when I say this kind of thing, but we tend to treat the object or the building as a jewel, and we want to protect it and enshrine it. But actually the important thing to see is why it's being left behind, and then fix those connections. So when you see that public transport networks have passed the building by, that's a problem. It's going to stand as a jewel. You cannot keep it like that. You need to activate the connection. So I think our assets, actually these kind of bus stop, MRT station, or this kind of thing, how do they connect? Those are the things that will bring life footfall into the building and make it alive again. So I think we need to also see the things outside. Yeah.
Thank you. What I saw very strongly is you made the spectator walk. The spectator was moving, and you made the activity interactive with the transit. And I thought I was very impressed with that. And Ellen, thank you for your answers, because I'm going to try and remember that layering in whatever I do is true. Any response from Silver Pride and School of Tomorrow?
Okay, maybe I go next. So to me, as a designer, right, the assets is actually, everything is an asset. So what it means, like, it's when I first started this, when I first started working, somebody told me that as a designer, you have to be like a sponge. So initially, I don't know what it means. Like you have to absorb everything. Then I think slowly I can understand that actually everything is an asset. Like for example, the things that you have seen, the things that you have read, everything is an asset that you never know when you will find it useful for your next project. And also, I feel feeling is an asset that sometimes people don't really recognize enough. I think because when you feel something, I think you have to remember why you're feeling that way. And if you want your audience to create, if you want to create an experience for your audience that want to create that certain feeling, you have to remember what makes you feel like that. Hence, you can create it. So I think feeling and also everywhere around you is an asset. Thank you.
Okay, so feelings are assets too, yeah?
Yeah, I think I can really relate to Jonathan's point as well. Because I think as a designer, you are also kind of challenged to bring a fresh lens to an existing problem. In that sense, design can be used to kind of create value from nothing or something that's quite undesirable. So, I think this is a very common cliche, but I think Singapore is always touted as like a very resourceful society, right? Because we are able to create something from nothing. I think a very big example is new water. But I think to kind of draw it back to our project, right? I think one thing that kind of struck us was that when we brought the exhibition to Hong Kong, I think Lynn can also share more later, the Hong Kong practitioners, they were so surprised that, actually lion dance can be used in such a way. And I'm pretty sure they have a much bigger, thriving lion dance scene over there, but it never occurred to them that actually it can be also evolved in such a manner. So I really feel like, at least, I mean, as a Singaporean, I think being able to work with very minimal resources and using it to create maximum value is quite an important asset that we can all share.
Yeah. Thank you.
I think because I come from the intangible cultural heritage field, actually there's a lot of assets that I think as Singaporeans we can really be proud of, but a lot of these are just disappearing. And so I hope that it could be also through this project inspire people to look into things that could be forgotten. A lot of the assets that we actually have for more than Singapore's 60 years. Like the clan association is 185 years old. There are many other clans that's 200 years old. Right? There's so much assets that maybe is just beneath the surface and just waiting for us to tap into. Just like how we managed to find the Wong Fei Hong disciple to come out, kind of thing, right? So actually these are networks or assets that is not just within Singapore, but also has the impact that's transnational as well, right? Just like how the Wong Fei Hong lineage is like globally, right? So that's why maybe the city, like this other city elsewhere actually notice us because maybe of such lineages as well. Yeah, so I think, I hope that design could look into assets that is just more of like waiting to be surfaced. Yeah.
Thank you. So I hear all of you turning adjectives into assets. Old is an asset, yeah? Yi-Chin, you wanted to respond to something? No? Okay. I had hope. I actually hope the panel would talk to each other in addition to talking to the audience, but it's okay. Yeah. There is an upvoted question here, and it's about resistance. Yeah. Are there clients who are skeptical? And how do you manage challenges and convince them with good design? And I am sure there will be, everything we do will have skeptics, right? Some of us may not have had certain experiences that give us the positivity, right? And this is where the thinking in the designing could, so I think many of our designers have come across quite a bit of adversity as well. So that's where I think the resilience in design could actually come in. So have you faced clients who were skeptical? And how have you managed them as a challenge with good design?
I'll start.
Yep.
I think you have to look at clients as partners. You have to, I mean, choice is a luxury to many of us, but you can direct your practice towards certain directions, and it's to choose the type of clients you want to work with. So if you identify with their purpose, their motivations, it is much easier to not have that kind of resistance. So if you go into a job because you need to get that job to pay bills, then you take certain jobs that not quite aligned with your sense of purpose, then you're going to face that resistance and it's going to come up again and again. So I think you can overcome that kind of thing for 1, 2, maybe 3 jobs, but in the long run, I think you have to know what you're about and then choose a route that will fit your nature. Yeah.
That's very wise words coming from a skillful, successful architect. Ellen? Oh, again. Sure.
I think skepticism exists in everyone to a certain degree. I mean, not only client, but for us, I feel we have to look at client not really as a client, but as people. Okay, so that's one thing, because I feel that as long we align on the same objective, the client objective is also our objective, then I feel that way we won't go far in our solution. Hence, the client will be more receptive to it. Because if we start to put our own agenda first, like I say, oh, okay, I want to build this for the sake of building something, then it becomes don't align with what's the brief, right, or the client's objective. That's where the skepticism that exists maybe from the start small become actually even worse. Like, what is this guy doing? Right? I mean, something. So I think we have to stay true to the brief, stay true to what we believe in, that we feel that we are offering the best solution to the client, and explain in our best way or why a certain solution works. I feel, stay true.
Thank you, stay true. Ellen?
Yeah, how to do this without being too pessimistic? And because in all very visible, right? All the almost safety to conclude the projects that are presented today, including mine, are all with very good client collaborators. The opportunity of a good project, of doing good, building good bridges, right, does need that ingredient of all designers and architects will attest to, right? Is that very supportive, very like-minded, and the ability to form and identify that bridge to build, would be the key ingredient of any good initiatives. But of course, when coming from me, I'm not presenting a project, I'm presenting a lifelong of practice, hopefully not lifelong, halfway. It is filled with good projects. There are good projects. There are projects that are not so good, in the sense that they are not a good project by that, because they are just a bit more resistant. There are a lot more, as you see, solutions that are always double-edged. There's always, because life is like that. There's not just one good solution. The good solution comes with the bad things. Prioritizing is about selecting, is about focusing, right? And because it is that nature of design, right, there will be always resistance, even with very good clients. The reason may come from fire departments. Oh, I want to connect, but the fire department principle would be to compartmentize, right? Out of safety. There's always conflict of issues and matters that really will test the designers or architects to the limit, which is termed as resistance, is, I guess, part of our life, and for me to come to terms with. Yeah.
Nice. See the robustness here. Yeah, okay. Any? No?
Yeah, I think I think in our case, we were quite lucky because this project was really quite a peculiar one. It was not a client brief, but it was like the goal was really to kind of create something for the communities, right? And I think we were very lucky that we had a great team of partners. We were all very passionate. In fact, sometimes our team at NextOfKin, we actually spend more time and effort on this project than the higher paying ones. But I think it also goes to show the passion to kind of bring this to reality. And I think what really helped for the process was really making a lot of prototypes. Because when we pitched this idea to the active aging centers, right, just showing slides is still very abstract. But being able to show their seniors and bring a physical line ahead and get them to try, I think seeing their faces also convince the owners that, hey, I think this is something that we should actually invest in. So I think the act of making is still very relevant amidst your presentation and pitching.
Yeah. So let me just summarize. You see them as partners, you see them as people, you see them with passion, right? And trying to get a word for you, but I think you see them with a different perspective, which is very important to them, and how you pull it together as a bridge to make it work, right? Which then comes to another question which has been really upvoted, which is about each project has a clear design thrust. This person is curious to know more about the origin of the key ideas. Were they seeded from the client design brief, developed and pushed by the designers, or more through two-way collaboration, which brings us to this idea of collaboration, right? In working with the community, you have different types of collaborations as well, different people's wanting things from a different angle, right? How do you see collaboration? How does that influence the design? Is it then your design, their design, or a midway design, hybrid design? How do you see this? So the question is again about were the designs seeded from a client brief, developed and pushed by the designer, or were they through two-way collaboration? Yeah. A, B, or C? Yeah. Is that or both?
I have unlike our friends here, right? They fall back to the project they are presenting and won. I have the luxury of many projects to fall back to as a point of reference to this diversity, this question. Yes, almost without fail. The clients definitely, the brief definitely is seeded by them to some extent. Yeah, because the alignment comes about that. The intent, the reason for the commission, that you are answered, at least for us, building a need, there's a functional requirement, right? A certain aspiration of the client has to be considered. For instance, the boss I mentioned, right? The word came from them to demystify. But the elaboration and the imagination and the application from us. Right? Because it's so vague, right? What demystify? You know, play LED projection to demonstrate, architecture, how do you do that? The cloister house, right, came from real need of fortification, security, safety. And then, wow, that's why it becomes this very fortified thing that the courtyard become a natural solution, and the courtyard comes the cloister. So we need that jump, and I think it's important for us as creatives, right, to make that jump, because that jump is ours. And that jump of a certain investigation, what is important to that is to make it scalable. Meaning a certain idea or thesis, right, is continued in other projects in different form. So at least I think for me, the value and design as a continuous process and investigation and discourse, right, I think a lot is dependent on it. Yeah.
Thank you, Ellen.
Doesn't always have to flow.
You don't have to go this way, but
No, I've been thinking about this a lot, and that's why in the beginning of my presentation, I put in some of my earlier ideas, and I think every designer has certain obsessions, and I could trace it back to my obsessions earlier about this kind of the buildings as kind of connected buildings as a kind of city in itself. Like on the weekends, 10 years ago, I would just go taking pictures of Roxy Square and trying to draw the plan and actually go back and draw it out. So in the lucky moments, you find some overlap. It clicks a little bit with your client. And then that's when you can work in collaboration, but you have to bring something to the table. And, also I have to say you must be open-minded to the client's ideas because those are also new impetus, new things, because you keep learning, right? You don't just learn 10 years ago, you also learn at every moment. So you must also be open to all these new ideas that come from the client. And hopefully they become part of yourself as well.
Okay, nice. I actually wanted to build up what you said just now, right? I think when dealing with client, we have to be open-minded. Again, back to the previous question, which is skeptic. Sometimes we also skeptic actually, right? Not only client, but we can't put a skeptic mind when we're dealing with client because more often than not that actually if we keep an open mind, the idea gets better. I think it doesn't necessarily to always be like, well, client say this, it become better. Actually not true. I encountered a lot of instances that actually the client comment make it even better than what we didn't think about previously. So back to the question also, I encountered A, B, and C before lah. So it's like there are many types. There are many types of client, but I do feel that client is like our partners. Like it takes two hands to clap, and I really believe that as a creative or a designer, you need a partner that also believe in you, and that's why we can do work together.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
I think for our case, for the Silver Pride Lion Troupe, we're very lucky. The client really didn't give us much of a brief. But of course, we have been ideating from the start. We have been looking at different kind of cultural assets and thinking which is the lowest hanging fruit to start with. And then, of course, it's also not saying we know the answers. We also went around to talk to different stakeholders, and that's where, back to the question about assets in the community, trying to see what is already existing in the community, and then just sort of like having an additional layer on it, right? So that's why like having the idea of having the lion dance seated was also looking at the AAC, seeing that they already have chair Zumbas, existing things already, and then we just tap on that, somewhat.
Yeah, actually to add on, right, I think at least for me, it has been a very humbling experience because I also realized that actually designers are not the only ones that can be creative. I mean, it's also a very common cliche, but I remember our best ideas actually come from our conversations with Lynn and also other partners, right? So I think one very simple challenge that we struggled with for the longest time, I can still remember, was turning the line dance choreography into a wheelchair version. Because at the start, we were still thinking, okay, this one has to be done standing up. You have to respect the tradition. We cannot deviate too much from it. But then at some point, we felt like, then are we truly designing for the seniors or for ourselves? But then we were also grappling because it's like, if the senior sees these, right, is that pantang for them? Like, would they feel like if I sit on the wheelchair, I'm like cursing myself, Yeah. But then through the many conversations with the seniors, we actually realized that once we were able to demonstrate a sequence with the clan seniors, right, and then they can see the possibilities. And then once that mental hurdle has been crossed, right, you will start to see seniors actually being very happy to try out. So yeah, I really think that has been something that I still find very, very memorable. Like sometimes we can be very blindsided by our own biases even as designers.
Yeah, and I'm very impressed the scope of answers actually have addressed some of the other questions in the board. For some of the questions, they are specific to the architecture. Perhaps I will not dwell on that. But what I have heard as well, right, coming from everyone, is this idea of balance. So good and bad. For every good thing that you come, you also have to take the bad things that come. And in partnerships, there's good and bad. And then there's diverse yet inclusive. Yeah. So balance, and what do you balance? Old and new. Existing buildings and new ideas, right? Redo or rebuild. Yeah. So, what are your thoughts on balance in the work that you do in every project? Where are the balances that you need to put in your projects? Again.
Balance is interesting. Maybe specifically to the School of Tomorrow project, one of the hardest balance to strike is actually how much should we create, because it's a exhibition about sustainability, right? But yet, like if we create something, is it become a waste? So this is the balance that actually really quite difficult for us to manage and also quite tricky, because we want to be as sustainable as possible, but more often than not, it's not 100% possible. So to strike the balance, we use like a second-hand product. So we try to create as minimal as possible for the School of Tomorrow project. And even like after the exhibition finish, our partition wall and everything also we return back to the construction builder to reuse as a filmmaking set, because he often work with like a filmmaker to build set. So we try as much as possible to balance. But then if we don't do enough, it doesn't bring the idea across. But if we do too much, it become also like ironic in a way. So that's one of the hardest balance that to strike in this project.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Any?
Something very practical, which is the budget and the impact you want to make or that you can make. So, I mean, Delta is quite a low budget project. If you go there, you see some of the finishes are quite rough, maybe rougher than what we would have liked. But as we progress through the project, you have to cut some things. And I think this version that you see and that was built is quite different from some of the earlier proposals we did. Right. So I think also interestingly, keeping structures and building new structures is also related to that. Yeah. So one very practical component of keeping or retaining buildings is that it does help you save some resources and you can put it elsewhere where you can create impact. So we chose to focus the impact on the gym block site, and then the rest we took a lighter touch because there was only so many millions that we had. So yeah.
You also have to balance the time taken to finish the project.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Edmund?
Okay. I'll answer it differently. I think without a doubt, our role has to balance, right? It's a balance sheet, so to speak, like bankers, right, or accountants. You have to balance budget, the needs of different communities, stakeholders, compliances, skills of your builders, and I mean, when you are human enterprise involves so many parties, right? It's just without a doubt you need to balance. Then the question and challenge would be as a creative again, in the context of that balance, right? Also, role as an architect, we need to do that. But on the other hand, as a creative enterprise, we need to be clear. We need to seek and aspire towards a certain purity, not because you want to be pure, but that could be legible. Your intent, what is important, the breach could be seen as a breach and not something else that is invisible breach. I don't know whether I make sense. That clarity is part of our scope. 5 minutes, okay. And this is difficult, that's why I thought, okay, it's easier to keep things simple. One-liner project, easy to understand, right? I deal with dichotomy. That's already, I think, the furthest you can go. Polarity. Although we know that the world is not so simplistic. There's a lot more diverse, conflicting challenges. But why do I need to pick that? Because otherwise, you can see, open malls, right? The comment is not that open, eh? Because of the balance and mitigation. The balance, once you mitigate, once things are dirty, hybridize, A and B, not A, it becomes complicated and legible. And then that is I felt a lifelong challenge, or a challenge that anyone embarked that by default you need to balance, right? Is to how do we maintain that legibility, which is essential because it's about communication. It's about saying that, the elders, you can do it.
Yeah.
Empowerment. Yeah. It's about the earth, the world is in danger. Wise up, right? When you're young, right? Bridge connecting, I don't know. Architect, same thing. Very hard for us. You're not alone. It's very hard for us.
Okay.
Why? Architecture is extremely, extremely complicated and messy. Yeah.
Thank you for reminding us about that. And I do want to say, right, we always say these are designs that let us, let me remember, live, work, and play. URA tagline, right? Yeah, correct. But honestly, it's going to be a lot more complicated in the future because it's not just when you're designing with communities, right? Live and work and play. There could be individuals, but in groups, we're actually designing to engage, to learn, to worship, to connect, and to gather. Yeah. And I think that's where the public spaces could be things for us to do more together, right? And I'm going to circle back, sorry, correct, to my first question. Yeah, what is one small important thing that you can do, or maybe should do, that could make a huge difference, that everyone can take something home with and say, hey, that's something important I should start a design project with? So that we can. I thought now we had another half hour, I look at my watch. So I was just going to go on, but okay, sorry, we have to do this quicker, yeah, okay.
I think one small thing that people can tapao back. I think stay true to the heart and keep an open mind, because these two are also a balance. You keep an open mind, but yet you have to stay true to the heart. So I think these two are important.
Thank you again.
Go to site.
Go to site. Okay.
Go take a look. Yeah.
Okay.
Don't just look at
Go see for
photograph.
yourself. Yeah.
Just go there. Go
Okay.
there.
Got it. Edmund, did anything?
I think this is a very ideal answer, lah. But I think for me is to always keep trying things, even if they don't pay you money. Yeah.
Okay.
So I've been doing a lot of that in my free time as well.
Okay.
I think mine is very easy. Actually, the smallest thing that I will do is to just treat someone to lunch. Yeah, that will makes wonders. Yeah.
Nice. Okay. Ellen, surprise us.
No, I can't. Yeah, I can't. How to bring back? Very stressed. I am a naturally very pessimistic person. So find ways, like myself, find ways to be optimistic, find way to find a faith, find belief, find something in the project which I felt important, because balancing, building bridges, you are engaging by default. We supposed to be, and not just service, but served. I think that's my, to serve others, right? Yeah. But while we say that, don't forget yourself. Yeah, that you find meaning through joy, through conviction, to find your project, that little thing that's you, in the things that, the sea of stuff that you need to balance, that you should always self-balance.
Thank you. Yeah, there are actually some very interesting questions in the pigeonhole for Yichin and for Ellen specifically, like red color, geography, since you are a PhD in geography, right? And then, what about TMW, and what would you have done differently, any project? So those are specific questions that perhaps if you are still available, you can address the persons who asked this. So quite interesting questions, but I think a conversation is about having a conversation, and maybe some of the specific technical things would be something that you all would like to speak to the architect or the designer yourself. But thank you so much. I think we have enjoyed your wisdom. Yeah, thank you for sharing that with us.